Welcome to CCP TV's Bike On. We're here today at Via Bicycles at 9th and South Street in Philadelphia. And as you'll see, it isn't just a bike shop. It's a slice of Philadelphia history and a slice of American history. We're going to talk to the shop's owner, Curtis Anthony, and you'll see the passion that he and his employees have for bicycles. Welcome to Bike On TV. We're here today with Curtis Anthony at Via Bicycles down at 9th and South Street in Philadelphia. The place is a legend in Philadelphia. Curtis, welcome to the show.
It's a treat.
And thank you for letting us be here today. This shop is quite a shop to see. Via Bicycles is a repair shop. They sell bicycles, and it's also something of a bicycle museum. It's a place that you have to see to believe. Curtis, how long have you been here at 9th and South?
We have been at 9th and South since 1997.
And before that?
We were at 12th and Pine. Before that, Broad and Lombard, where we started in 1982.
1982?
Yes.
And I imagine the collection of bikes and parts and so on that you have here has grown over the years.
And how?
What's the oldest bike you have in your shop?
At present, I have a 1889. That's the oldest one. I have two from 1889 right now.
And those are part of your own private collection?
They are.
How many bikes do you have in the shop? Do you have any idea?
Just the one.
How many do you think there are all together in here? Any idea?
I get asked that, Chuck, frequently, and I really don't know. I couldn't think. There's probably 1,000.
Wow. I mean, there's certainly hundreds, and I can imagine there's more than 1,000. What is the most common kind of customer that you deal with? Who do you see that comes in here and buys the kind of bikes that you sell?
Well, I'm grateful that we have people that actually use their bicycles. So the utilitarian bicycles, general transportation, families, students, and that's the bulk of our business, repairs and general bicycles. But it's exciting and it keeps my interest because we deal with a lot of collectors and we get calls from all over the country, sometimes out of the country, and we do ship worldwide from our website.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, I've seen some of the stuff you have here. It's just every place in the shop there's things laying around that just, this is from 1950 and that's from 1970 and this is from an old vintage Raleigh and so on. It's just amazing. So most of your customers are people that are looking for just transportation in the city?
Yes, most of our customers are riders.
And they're the riders who ride their bike for, as you said, utilitarian purposes every day. They're riding to work, they're riding to school, going out to buy groceries, whatever.
Frequently we have, and they keep us afloat in the wintertime, many delivery people. And that's good because, of course, business gets a little bit slow in the wintertime, and we're grateful to them because they keep our lights on. So
it's a real city bike shop compared to some of the places that cater to the people who go out on their 50-mile rides every weekend, for example.
Yes, we do have both. And we have people that have worked here over the years are like that we deal with more people that come here use their bikes as tools rather than toys. And so that's a nice change. Many bike stores, predominantly in the suburbs, where it's a little less conducive to commuting, they might be using their bikes for fun. Here, of course, anytime you get on a bike, it should be fun.
Right.
But here in the city, people actually use them to save on parking, save on transportation costs across the board.
And how much do you actually ride a bike?
It's embarrassing. I don't ride nearly enough because it's something I thoroughly enjoy, and I don't ride enough.
Well, you're here in the shop every day, so.
I am, but I live upstairs, and I tried to ride to work once, and I really got hurt.
So working here in the shop, you don't ride much anymore, but I understand you used to ride a lot in the past.
I did. I was much more active in the local bike club, and they're awesome. The High Wheel Bike Club that I belong to, the American Wheelmen, I participated much more. I'm a former state captain, and I miss it because I chortle like a kid when I ride a bike, and it really is the funnest thing I do.
And you used to ride the high wheel bikes occasionally.
I still do. Sometimes I'll pull that down and ride it to the bank. Sometimes I'll take it out. It's better on a weekday because there are fewer people on the bike trail, and my arm doesn't get tired so much when I'm riding on a quieter day.
Is yours a vintage penny farthing?
It is. It's an 1886. Actually,
Wow.
I'd said earlier that my oldest bike was an 1889. My high wheel is a Victor from 1886, and it was my gift to myself for being in business for 25 years.
And with this, that's a fairly unique experience. So can you tell us what it's like riding the high wheel compared to a regular bike?
It's so pure. You are one with the bicycle. It's a fixed gear, which are very, very popular now. It's a direct drive, and you're totally on it. You're above the rear wheel, and you must pay attention at any given moment. The roads today are in much better condition than they were in the 1880s, so it's an easier ride. It's not as dangerous as it was back then, but it rides like a dream. I've owned 17 different ones, and
Wow.
this is by far the nicest riding machine I've ever owned.
Now, the big wheel is in the back and the little wheel is in the front, or is it the other way around?
There was a version made in Smithville, New Jersey, that had the large wheel in the back, the small wheel in the front, but mine is the conventional one. They call it the ordinary because it was the most common one that you often see illustrated with the large wheel, drive wheel in the front and the smaller wheel, pretty much for balance that's in the rear, the trailing wheel.
And how is it on hills?
It is, it's a tough walk. Yes. So going downhill, actually, you can go back and stand on the step, which is just above the rear wheel, the mounting step, and with the other foot, drag it on the rear wheel. So I can go down a pretty steep hill on that. Other times, if you know where the hill leads out, if you have a good lead out, you can put your legs over the handlebars and coast.
Oh my God.
The reason being is the pedals are going so fast, they won't entangle your legs. And also, if you do hit something, you're thrown clear so that you don't get tangled in the machine and hurt.
So that's, as I said, that's a pretty unique experience. I understand you have a cargo bike too with a basket on the front that I've seen. Tell us a little bit about that.
It will hold a huge amount of weight, and my 10-year-old loves riding in it, and we will go all over town on it. It rides quite nicely, and I'm seeing many more cargo bikes in the city. There is a store in the city that focuses on them, and I hope they do an awesome business because it's getting delivery trucks and delivery traffic off the streets.
Yeah, they're becoming more common. We spoke to one woman who has 2 children, and she outfitted the front to hold both children. They're 1-year-old and 3-year-old, and she drives them to daycare before she goes to work every day on her bike.
They ride so nicely.
So I understand that the bike you have with the basket on the front can hold a dog also.
My previous dog, Fido 1, we're now on F1D0B, would ride in it, and she would jump in it by herself. The new dog is a little attracted to shiny items and might leap out of the basket. I do want her to train. She's getting a little more relaxed in her old age.
And I've heard recently that you used to be a bike messenger.
I was. I rode for a couple of years. I really enjoyed it. My friend and I would marvel that we were getting paid to do what we loved. And it was long enough ago that we got paid $5 an hour.
Oh my goodness.
And we were able to survive on that. And now the companies pay their men and women on commission, and they do much better.
And was that here in Philadelphia?
Yes.
So what's it like being a bike messenger in the streets of Philadelphia?
Glamorous.
It's an adventure, I imagine.
It was awesome. It was very, very dangerous work. And whenever I see anybody wearing headphones, I shudder because your ears are so much a part of your protection. And it really makes me worry. And I'll chide a youngster, anybody younger than me as a youngster, I'll chide somebody for riding with earphones on.
And when you were a messenger, what kind of things did you deliver in your bike? Was it mostly documents, or was it cheesesteaks, or what were you delivering?
We didn't do food. It was mostly documents, signatures, law firms, photographers. Frequently we'd be in the Inquirer building, and it would be pretty exciting. We'd be in some pretty high-powered offices.
Yeah.
I had studied architecture, and being in some of these big buildings from the country would be really fascinating.
What kind of bike did you use as a messenger?
Oh boy, I was on a mountain bike, and that was a pretty good setup. Now the riders are frequently riding the fixed gear bikes, which is they're light and fast and low maintenance, but I liked having gears and fenders.
And I guess the mountain bike was good on the rough city streets.
It was good on the rough city streets, good strong brakes and mud guards, because on inclement days with inclement weather, there would be busier days for us.
How did you get started with the bicycle shop, in the bicycle shop business, so to speak?
I always enjoyed bicycles, and on my days off, I had been a waiter, and I had an erratic schedule. I'd be able to go into different places. I liked antiques, I liked bookstores, I liked bicycles. And a bike store I went into, it was obvious the man was tired of his business. His business looked a little tired of him, and he said he'd sell everything. So my mom loaned me the money.
And you got your first bike shop started with the
I
money
did.
your mother let you borrow.
She did.
And I understand your family was in the antique business, so you grew up with antiques.
I did. And I had my high school graduation present was an antique bicycle lamp, which I still have. It's a thing of beauty.
Well, that's wonderful. I noticed that besides the bicycles, you have a few antique items around the shop, so you can see that influence is still there.
Very much so.
Yeah, it's amazing because the front of your shop is an antique in itself, so to speak. And it says that, you know, it's like a bicycle museum, and it really is. I mean, you've got so many things in here that are from different eras and so on. So you can see the influence of your having grown up in an antique shop with some of the items you've collected around here. How about if we look around the shop a little bit, upstairs maybe, and you can show us some of the things that you've collected.
Please, I love looking around. This is a really awesome thing. That's an art supplement to the Philadelphia Inquirer in the late 90s, probably 95, 96, 97. And you see the Girard Point Bridge, which is just very cool. You see people promenading, and you see the early bicycles, a woman with way too heavy of a skirt on there, and going under the stone arch, which is really quite a sight in Philadelphia. This is one of my favorites. This is a reproduction of an advertisement for tires. And their tires were a new thing. And you see the rats gnawing on the tires, but the tires are so tough and durable that it's giving the rats toothaches. And that's just, I find that really comical, and it's a really effective ad. And that's in front of a sign, actually. That's a real cycle company. They manufactured bikes in Philadelphia, I know, through World War II, and they went out of business, unfortunately, in the early 80s, right about when I started business.
And this certificate is behind you?
This right here, this is awesome. This is Conditions of the President's Cup, and that was presented to the local cyclist, a member of the club who put on the most numbers during the year, and that has from 1885 to 1886. And pictured on the cup, on one side there's a high wheel bicycle, on the other side there is a tricycle, and the one wheel is offset on that, which is interesting because that would ride in the track of the road, where the road would be a little bit smoother. These are all related to working bicycles. There's a mounted bicycle police patch. Right behind there, there's a policeman on a bicycle stopping a runaway horse. This game, that's a Parker Brothers game, Messenger Boy and Checkers. This is hilarious because it's basically like chutes and ladders, and one of the chutes says rebuked by employer. It is being chided for having done something. And there's the Kevin Bacon, a local boy, on his Messenger movie. And they're illustrated behind as a group of policemen, with one of them with their bicycles. And many different things. As we go through here, there's this a plethora. Wood was used. There's wooden handlebars, a wooden fender, the steam bent, and these would probably, as they're slightly flexible, they would have given a nice ride. And we have them of various different positions, and this would be like for the Scorcher, which they called the racing fellows back in the day. These pieces here, that looks like a pistol, there would be a rubber bulb on the end of it, and you would put in those a mixture of ammonia and water, and if the dog were chasing you, a quick spritz of that would affect their eyes so badly, not permanently, but it would send them yelping into the bushes to leave you alone. And here somebody was doing I'm sure it looks like a sneeze, but that's a painting that somebody was doing out front, and he gave me an awesome deal on it. And it's a picture. I think anybody else would look at that and not really know what it is, but I do. Various, over here, I don't know if you're able to see them through there, and I could fight them out if we need to. In this showcase, there's a rattan covered seat, so it would be flexible and breathable. And I can tell by its construction, it's a little bit wider for the pelvic structure on a woman, that is just an early example. And that I took off of a bike because it would be very expensive to restore. I'll probably wind up selling it to a collector that will restore. A couple notches to the left there, you'll see another saddle that has piano wire stretched on it that would be light and flexible and breathable. And that particular one I have a men's and women's version of that I had in mind to put on a tandem, which were often ridden for men and women. This is from an Ivor Johnson bicycle made in Fitchburg, Massachusetts. I was looking at, a collector had come in looking for parts for an Ivor Johnson bicycle. At the same time, my phone blipped, and I received pictures from another bicycle store, a man trying to have a bike identified. I gave him a couple of clues of things to look for, and you can see that nameplate is triangular. It took a screw in each corner, there being 3. And I was able to identify that as an Ivor Johnson, which was a coincidence, as I had a customer for those, and they haven't been made since 1943. I think in the 1890s, and the brake was a big advancement in cycling. It made it a lot safer because it made a safe, reliable, easy-to-use brake, where you just pedal backwards slightly and it would engage a brake, and that was a wonderful advancement. And they quit making them, I think, shortly after World War II, I think because they worked. So this bicycle came out just at the end of the high wheel bikes. These are exceedingly rare. This is called a safety bicycle because of similar sized wheels and being closer to the ground made it much safer and a lot more confidence inducing. But when they came down in size, it was actually much more rigid. So they would add a suspension mechanism. So you see how much this gives. And it actually rides very, very well. And when riding one of these, you would, you see when the wheel rotates, it's direct drive. And if you're going down a descent, then you're going too fast to keep your feet on the pedals. You could take your feet off the pedals and put them on the coasting pegs. And so that was an early setup. This particular one, when you're seated, the handlebars are basically across your lap, and it's very similar to the position that a high wheel bicycle would have. And that would be, it's not really comfortable in this sort of bicycle. And these were only around for, about 5 years until the advent of the air-filled tire, which absorbed the shock that the added weight of the suspension mechanism gave it. So the pneumatic tire, or the air-filled tire, was a big development in the bicycle, and it really freed the bicycle and made the safety, the smaller bike, very, very comfortable and reliable. This would hold a lamp, probably powered by, this is early enough, it might have still been whale oil. Sometimes they use a mixture of kerosene and whale oil. And it's too early for carbide, which was a very bright light, which came out in the late 90s, probably about almost a decade after this bicycle. And these are almost like the Ford and Chevy of their day. This one is made by the Overman Wheel Company in the Boston area. This other one is the Columbia Company, which was the first manufacturer of high-wheel bicycles in the United States. Albert Pope had seen his first high-wheel bike at the 1876 Centennial here in Philadelphia and liked the idea, bought one or two, changed the patents enough so that he could make them himself.
Yeah, I think that it really shows that you care about the things that you have, that they mean a lot to you, and I appreciate that. I think most of the people who come in the shop do. It's part of the charm, so to speak, of the shop. It's not just a bicycle repair shop; it's a destination.
It seems to be, and I'm grateful for that. People will come in and just they'll smell the place because you can smell the oil, you can smell the rubber, and they'll see the guys with all of us with their grubby hands. And they'll see me, the boss, with grubby hands and sometimes be surprised. I joke that I should have blisters from counting money, but that's not the fact. My hands are grubby from working on the bicycles, which I still enjoy. Unfortunately, I don't do it as much as I used to.
How many mechanics do you have working for you?
At present, we have 3 full-time men, 4 full-time guys, and they're all dedicated, knowledgeable, and can work unsupervised.
And I imagine that somebody who works here learns an awful lot about different kinds of bikes because of all the different stuff you deal with.
They have to if they want to stay on board.
Yeah, it's not, for example, like a Giant or Specialized or Cannondale mechanic who's trained just for that bike. You have guys that are working on stuff from years past, and it's all different kinds of things.
And with that, Chuck, we have parts and repairs sent from other stores throughout the city and across the country. We've had people send us things that surprised me that they couldn't find somebody local to do. Of course, we welcome the business, but they should be able to get that done elsewhere.
Yeah. What about the source of your bikes? Where do all these bikes come from?
I travel a lot. I've been to Michigan this year. I've been to upstate New York. I've been to New Jersey, Maryland. I travel quite a bit. And over the years, over 30 years in business, we have a network of places to find stores that have gone out of business. Sometimes other stores will call us and say they have old stock they want to sell. That's great for us because we deal with the unusual and more interesting things.
So you'll buy a batch of bikes from somebody wholesale, so to speak?
Yes. So we, of course, need to be comfortable of their origins. We don't buy things off the street.
Sure. And do people trade in bikes at all? Do you take trade-ins?
Frequently we will. We might sell somebody a utilitarian bike, and then they decide that it's fun. They learn a bit about it. They gain strength and confidence. And they want to ride something faster. And we know the origins of the bike because we sold them their previous machine, and so they'll trade up, and I'm okay with that. Sometimes children's bikes we've sold for 3 or 4 different times because a child outgrows it, brings it back to us, trades it toward their next one, and eventually we're going to sell them a bike for college.
So you have a customer for life, so to speak.
I hope so.
Well, that's good. How did you get started in bicycling? When did you first start bicycling?
As a child, I remember riding my tricycle and being able to go blocks from home. My mom doesn't like to hear it, but I liked being able to get far enough away so I couldn't hear her yelling.
And where was this?
That was in Endicott, New York.
Oh, up where they make shoes, up in that area.
And we're on the same street as the first IBM plant.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Up near Binghamton.
Yes.
And did you bicycle continuously from the time you were a child, or did you stop and start up again as an adult?
I always enjoyed it. I've always enjoyed it. When I got my driver's license, I enjoyed cycling still, which surprises me because many young people, when they get their first driver's license in a rural area, which we had moved to by that point, their riding diminishes. Mine didn't. I still love doing it. We were near the Pennsylvania border, and I'd have chums that would be hanging out in the park. I'd see them. I'd go for a ride to Pennsylvania and back, and they'd still be in the park and hadn't gone anywhere. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah. What's your favorite bike?
Oh gosh, I like my delivery bike. I like my high wheel bike. I don't think I could nail it down to one bike. I'm sorry.
Well, you have 1,000 and you've nailed it down to 2 or 3, so that's quite an accomplishment. Oh, it's not often we speak to somebody who owns 1,000 bicycles.
Well, they're not all mine, but personal bikes I probably have, maybe 11.
Wow. And tell us about one of the best experiences you've had bicycling, something you recall that really sticks in your mind.
Oh gosh. I remember when I was state captain for the High Wheel Bike Club. We were in Dearborn, Michigan at the Henry Ford Museum. And they had asked me to be at the head of the procession. I was younger and stronger, had a good mustache and was riding, and they were going to have a TV camera there. So they said, come up to the front with us. So I did, and once I got past the cameras, I jumped off my bike and I was able to watch 250 costumed riders
Wow.
on authentic bikes from the 1880s and 1890s go past feet from me, and it was just wonderful to watch, and that was just a memorable treat.
Yeah, that sounds nice. Can you tell us about a bad experience you've had bicycling? A day you'd like to forget or a time you'd like to forget?
I have 7 stitches in an eyebrow, and I lost a mole on my chin in the same accident. And when I called my mom to come get me because I was bleeding profusely, she yelled at me because I was not where I was supposed to be. I was supposed to be going to my friend's house on the other side of town. And I go, "Mom, I'm bleeding all over the place. Stop yelling."
So obviously this happened when you were a kid,
Oh yes, I was 15.
15 years old.
Yes.
Is there one bike or a group of bicyclists, one bicyclist or group of bicyclists whom you really admire? Tell us about somebody who bicycles whom you admire.
I like the bicyclists I admire. I like the people who ride day in and day out. You spoke of the woman that rides her kids to school, and she uses that bike as a tool. And I appreciate that because that's one more car off the road. I feel terrible when I drive my car on local runs, when I pick up my kid from school half an hour away. I'd rather do that by bike, and I just can't fit it into my schedule. And so I admire the person that uses the bike instead of the car.
The people who wear biking as a utilitarian part of their everyday life.
Yes, very much so.
Can you tell us what you think about helmets? Do you wear a helmet when you ride?
I try to set a better example. If I'm darting to the bank, I frequently forget to put my helmet on. I strongly advocate it. I probably wouldn't have gotten the 7 stitches in my eyebrow had I been wearing a helmet. I know many people who have avoided serious injury, and I do not ride it all the time. I insist my kid does when he's on the bike. I should.
So when you go out for a quick run, sometimes you forget, but generally you do wear a helmet when you ride your bike.
Yes.
What do you think about, and so I'm going to ask another part of this, do you think everybody should wear a helmet when they ride a bike, in general?
Yes, I think they should. It's like it's personal choice, but as with motorcycles, I think that you should be responsible for your own good. But if you get hurt and the insurance company has to pay for it, it was your choice not to wear a helmet. And if you get seriously injured, that's kind of on you because you didn't wear a helmet that might have protected you. So that's a sticky slope,
Yeah,
or
so
slippery slope.
in a sense, the not wearing a helmet has an impact for society as well as on the individual. Obviously on the individual, but society in general is affected by that.
Oh, impact is correct.
What do you think about helmet laws that would mandate that people wear helmets?
I think strong rules, because if we are implementing laws, then we're paying somebody to enforce the laws. We're upping taxes to pay for that person. So making it a law, I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think we hear that from a lot of people, even from some of the bicycle groups, that they strongly favor helmets, but that mandating helmets through laws requires enforcement and so on, and that's a little bit overboard. Well, I think that's it then. Thank you for letting us be at your shop today. It was a pleasure, and you're welcome anytime.
Well, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing this on film.
Okay, thanks, Curtis.
Thanks. Really.
Curtis, do you know any good bicycle jokes?
A woman riding down a cobblestone street commented she'd never come that way before. You asked for it. You asked for it. You blushed.
No, that's fine. That's fine.